The emergency lights flashed red across the dark corridors of the Star Whisper, casting moving shadows that made Captain Reed's heart beat faster. The ship's hull groaned under the strain of their desperate escape, and the sound of failing systems echoed through every deck. Reed's silver-gray skin reflected the warning lights as they ran through the corridor, their four-fingered hand pressed against the wall for support. Engine status. Reed called out to the ship's computer, their voice rough from breathing the increasingly thin air. The life support systems were failing, just like everything else on the ship. Main engine at 12% capacity. Backup systems failing. Hull breach on decks 3 through 5. Remaining power estimated at 6 hours. The computer responded in its calm voice, a stark contrast to the chaos around them. Reed reached the bridge, where the remaining crew worked at their stations. Only 28 of them had survived the initial attack on their research outpost. 28 out of 300. The thought made Reed's secondary heart clench with grief, but there was no time for mourning now. Display rear view, Reed ordered, dropping into the captain's chair. The main screen flickered to life, showing the vast darkness of space behind them. In the distance, the remnants of their home burned, nuclear fire spreading across what had once been their most advanced research station. Officer Tem looked up from the navigation console, their usually bright blue eyes now dulled with exhaustion. "Captain, the swarm ships aren't following us anymore, but..." They paused, checking their readings again. "We're too damaged to reach any of our remaining outposts. We don't have enough power." Reed knew this already. They had known it from the moment the first swarm ship had appeared without warning, its black hull absorbing all light, its weapons tearing through their defenses like they were made of paper. The Drift, for all their advanced science and understanding of space phenomena, had never encountered anything like the swarm before. "How many stasis pods are still functional in the emergency bay?" Reed asked, turning to their medical officer, Leaf. Leaf's fingers moved quickly across their screen. 16 pods are fully functional. Another 12 have partial functionality. They'll work, but they left the sentence unfinished. Everyone knew the risks of using damaged stasis pods. Reed stood up, their decision made. Begin evacuation to the stasis bay. Priority to the wounded first. When no one moved, Reed's voice grew firmer. Now. The next hour passed in a blur of activity. The wounded were carefully moved to the stasis pods, their vital signs monitored closely as the pod systems engage. Those still able to walk helped others, showing the unity that had made the Drift such a successful species. Reed watched as their crew, their people, entered the pods one by one. Each closing pod felt like another goodbye, but it was their only chance for survival. The ship's power continued to drop, and the air grew thinner with each passing minute. Finally, only Reed remained. They walked to the ship's main computer terminal and began recording their final log entry. "This is Captain Reed of the research vessel Star Whisper. We have suffered a devastating attack from an unknown species we call the Swarm. Our outpost is destroyed. Survivors are entering emergency stasis. To anyone who finds this ship, our people are in your hands. Please." Reed paused, emotion finally breaking through their professional demeanor. "Please help them." With the message recorded, Reed made their way to the last functioning stasis pod. As they lay down, they could hear the ship's systems failing one by one. The pod's cover slid closed with a soft hiss, and the cold embrace of stasis began to take hold. Reed's last conscious thought was a prayer to the stars themselves, that someone, somewhere, would find them before it was too late. As their consciousness faded, they couldn't know that their prayer would be answered by a species they had never met, a species called humans. The Star Whisper drifted into the void, its precious cargo of survivors frozen in time, waiting for a rescue they couldn't be sure would ever come. The Northern Lights engines hummed quietly as it cruised through the empty space at the edge of human map territory. Captain Tom stood at the bridge window, his coffee growing cold in his hands as he stared at the endless field of stars. 3 months of finding nothing but space junk had made the crew restless. "Captain," Jack's voice crackled over the ship's intercom. "We're picking up something strange on the long-range scanners. Metal signature, big one. Definitely not an asteroid." Tom straightened up, his tiredness forgotten. "How big are we talking about?" "About twice our size." "And," Jack paused, "it's giving off some kind of power reading. Very weak, but it's there." "Plot an intercept course," Tom ordered, already moving towards the bridge controls. "Maya, Ben, gear up for possible boarding. This might be more than our usual salvage run." The Northern Light changed direction smoothly, its powerful engines pushing it towards the mysterious object. As they got closer, the ship's external lights revealed a sight that made everyone on the bridge fall silent. Floating in the darkness was a ship unlike anything they had ever seen. Its silver-white hull design was clearly alien, with smooth curves that seemed to flow like frozen water. But what caught their attention were the deep scars across its surface, telling a story of violence and desperate escape. "Life signs?" Tom asked, not taking his eyes off the alien vessel. Maya checked her medical scanner. "Nothing clear, but wait." She adjusted some settings. "There's something weird in what looks like their medical bay. Very faint energy signatures. Might be some kind of suspended animation system." Ben, the security officer, checked his weapon out of habit. "Could be dangerous, Captain. We don't know what happened to them." Tom nodded, understanding the concern. But something about this felt different from their usual salvage operations. This wasn't just an abandoned ship. This was first contact. "We're going in," he decided. "Maya, bring your best medical gear. Jack, you're with us. We might need an engineer. Bridge is yours. Peters." The boarding team gathered in the airlock, checking their suits one last time. The universal docking system on their ship managed to create a seal with the alien vessel's emergency airlock after some adjustment. "Remember," Tom said as they prepared to enter, "we're not here to strip this ship. If there are survivors, they're our priority." The team moved carefully through the dark corridors of the alien ship. Their suit lights revealed elegant architecture and advanced technology, now silent and dark. Emergency lights still blinked weakly, running on some kind of backup power. "This way," Maya said, following her scanner's readings. "The energy signatures are getting stronger." They found the medical bay behind a half-open door. Inside, arranged in a circle, were what looked like stasis pods. Most of them were dark, but a few still showed signs of life on their control panels. "These pods," Jack said, examining one closely, "they're running on their own power cells. That's why they're still working after however long this ship's been here." Maya moved from pod to pod, scanning each one. Her face lit up with excitement. "They're alive. The aliens in these pods, they're in some kind of deep stasis, but they're alive." Tom looked through the transparent cover of the nearest pod. Inside was a being with silver-gray skin and delicate features, looking almost peaceful in their frozen sleep. A wound on their shoulder had been hastily treated before they entered stasis. "How many?" Tom asked. 28 pods total," Maya reported. 16 are still fully functional. 12 are failing but still maintaining stasis. We need to act fast for those 12. Tom touched his radio. "Peters, contact Earth Command. Priority 1 message." He looked around at his team, seeing the same determination in their eyes that he felt. "Tell them we found survivors, and we're bringing them home." The Northern Lights' powerful floodlights illuminated the alien ship in the darkness, a beacon of hope for its frozen crew. The rescue they had prayed for had finally arrived, though from a species they had never met before. Maya's hands moved quickly over the medical equipment as she prepared for the first revival. The Northern Lights medical bay, usually quiet, now hummed with activity. They had carefully moved the most stable stasis pods from the alien ship, not wanting to risk waking the survivors in their damaged vessel. "Life signs are steady," she reported, checking the monitors. "I think we're ready to begin." Tom stood nearby, watching the pod that contained the alien they believed to be the captain. They had chosen this pod first after Jack found the captain's log recording, though they couldn't understand the language. "Do it," Tom ordered, nice and slow. The revival process began with a soft hum. The pod's frosted surface cleared gradually, revealing the alien captain inside. Their silver-gray skin began to show signs of movement as the stasis effect wore off. Maya monitored every change carefully. Heart rates increasing. Both of them. They have 2 hearts. Fascinating. Body temperature rising to what I think is their normal level. Suddenly, the alien's eyes opened. They were a deep purple color, with no pupils, just swirls of lighter purple moving across the surface. The captain tried to sit up, but their body was still weak from stasis. "Easy there," Maya said softly, even though she knew they couldn't understand her. She held up her hands in what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. The alien captain, Reed, according to the name they'd found on the pod, looked around the medical bay with growing confusion. Their 4-fingered hand reached for something that wasn't there, probably a translator or communication device. Tom stepped forward slowly, keeping his movements calm and deliberate. He pointed to himself. "Tom," he said clearly, then gestured to the medical officer. "Maya." Reed seemed to understand the introduction. They pressed a hand to their chest and spoke in a musical language. "Reed." Over the next few hours, they established basic communication through gestures and drawings. Maya used medical scans to show Reed that the rest of their crew was safe, just still in stasis. This seemed to relieve some of the tension in Reed's posture. Jack brought in a tablet showing images of the damaged Star Whisper. Reed's expression changed when they saw their ship, a mixture of sadness and gratitude crossing their alien features. "We'll help your people," Maya said, using gestures to convey her meaning. She pointed to the medical equipment, then to the remaining stasis pods. Reed watched her movements carefully, then did something unexpected. They reached out and took Maya's hand, holding it gently with their 4 fingers. The gesture was so human-like that it surprised everyone in the room. Reed spoke softly in their language, and though no one understood the words, the meaning was clear. "Thank you." The next few days were filled with careful revivals. Each survivor woke to find themselves among strange but friendly beings who were dedicated to helping them recover. The language barrier remained challenging, but the humans found that kindness needed no translation. The drift survivors, as they learned their species was called, were quick to adapt. They watched the humans with obvious curiosity, especially fascinated by their 5-fingered hands and varied skin colors. In turn, the humans were amazed by the drift's natural grace and their ability to see parts of the light spectrum invisible to human eyes. 1 week after the first revival, Reed sat with Tom in the ship's observation room, both looking out at the stars. They still couldn't speak each other's language fluently, but they had developed their own way of communicating. Reed drew something on a tablet, a simple picture of the northern light next to the Star Whisper. Then they added small figures representing both species standing together. The message was simple but powerful. 2 different peoples, united by circumstance, now walking the same path. Tom smiled at the drawing, understanding perfectly. Sometimes, he thought, the greatest bridges between species aren't built with words, but with actions. The humans' choice to help, and the drift's willingness to trust, had created something new in the vastness of space. Hope. 2 weeks had passed since the first revival, and the Northern Lights crew had made significant progress in communicating with the drift. Using a combination of pictures, basic words, and ship's data, both species were slowly learning to understand each other. But today, Reed was trying to share something urgent. The alien captain stood in the ship's meeting room, their purple eyes reflecting worry as they worked with the ship's computer. Around the table sat Tom, Maya, Jack, and Ben, watching as Reed pulled up the Star Whisper's sensor logs. The screen filled with images that made everyone sit up straighter. They showed massive black ships, their surfaces seeming to swallow light itself. The recordings played, showing these ships tearing through the drift's defense systems like they were nothing. "The swarm," Reed said, using one of the human words they had learned. They pointed to the black ships, then made a spreading gesture with their hands. "Many. Growing. Coming." Jack leaned forward, studying the tactical data. "These ships, their technology, it's way beyond anything we've ever seen. Look at how they just absorbed those energy weapons the drift used." Reed nodded grimly and pulled up a star map. They pointed to several points of light that blinked out one by one. Each light, Tom realized, represented a drift outpost or colony that the swarm had destroyed. "How long?" Tom asked, pointing to the map and making a walking motion with his fingers. "How long until they reached this area?" He pointed to the sector containing human space. Reed understood. They moved their hands in what the humans had learned was the drift's counting system. 6. They paused, searching for the word. 6 cycles. Months, they added, using the human term. Maya's face paled. 6 months until they reached the outer colonies. That's not much time. Ben, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "We need to warn Earth Defense Command. If these swarm ships can tear through the drift's technology like that, our current defenses won't stand a chance." Reed touched the screen again, bringing up more detailed scans of the swarm ships. The data showed something disturbing. The ships were growing in number, seemingly able to construct new vessels from the resources they took from conquered worlds. "They take, build, grow," Reed explained, their musical voice heavy with experience. "No talk, no peace." They pointed to their own wounds, still healing. "Only destroy." Tom stood up and walked to the star map. "Show me their pattern," he said, gesturing to Reed. "How do they move?" Reed joined him, their four-fingered hand moving across the map. They showed how the swarm moved in a systematic pattern, consuming everything in their path. It wasn't random. It was a calculated expansion, methodically stripping each sector of resources before moving to the next. "We might be able to use this," Jack said, his engineer's mind already working. "If they follow patterns, we can predict where they'll go. Maybe set up defenses, traps." But Reed shook their head, pointing to previous battles shown in their data. The drift had tried similar tactics. The swarm adapted quickly, learning from each encounter and becoming stronger. "Together," Reed said firmly, pointing to the humans, then to themselves. "Fight together." Tom nodded slowly, understanding. The drift's advanced scientific knowledge combined with human military tactics might give them a chance that neither species had alone. "Maya," Tom said, turning to his medical officer. "How soon can the rest of the drift crew be safely revived?" "We'll need their knowledge. 3 days for the remaining stable pods," she answered. "The damaged ones will take longer, but we can do it." "Good." Tom looked at Reed, their eyes meeting in shared determination. "First, we warn Earth. Then we prepare." Reed placed their hand on the star map, over the section of space they now shared with the humans. They spoke a phrase in their own language, then carefully translated it. "Hope lives in unity." The room fell quiet as both humans and drift looked at the map, knowing that somewhere out there, the swarm was coming. But they weren't facing the threat alone anymore. Sometimes, the greatest strength comes from the most unexpected alliances. The engine room of the Northern Light buzzed with activity as Jack worked alongside Leaf, one of the drift engineers. They had spent the past week repairing the Star Whisper's damaged systems, and in the process, learning more about each other's technology. "Amazing," Jack said, watching Leaf adjust what looked like a simple metal rod. The device hummed softly and began floating, creating a perfect anti-gravity field. "Our scientists have been trying to crack stable anti-gravity for decades." Leaf smiled, their silver skin shimmering under the engine room lights. Using the basic English they had learned, they said, "Simple physics." You see, they took Jack's hand and guided it through the process of adjusting the field strength. In the medical bay, Maya was having a similar exchange with the Drift's medical officer, Tem. They had discovered that drift healing techniques, combined with human medical technology, worked better than either method alone. Your bodies adapt so quickly, Tem noted in their improving English, watching Maya treat a minor burn on one of the human crew members. Is why you survive in many environments. Maya nodded. Humans are good at adapting. But your understanding of cellular repair is incredible. Together, we could revolutionize medicine for both our species. On the bridge, Tom and Reed had fallen into a comfortable routine of shared command. They took turns showing each other their different approaches to space navigation and ship operations. The Drift's elegant solutions often surprised Tom, while Reed was impressed by humanity's creative problem-solving. Your people, Reed said, pointing to a star map where several human trade routes were marked, move like water, flowing around problems, finding new paths. They made a flowing gesture with their hand. Drift think too straight, too perfect. Sometimes simple path is better. Tom smiled. And we could learn to slow down sometimes, think things through like your people do. Different strengths. The rest of the crew noticed how the ship felt more alive now. Humans and Drift shared meals together, trying each other's food and learning about their different cultures. The Drift were fascinated by human music and art, while the humans were captivated by the Drift's stories about space phenomena they had never encountered. One evening, Ben was teaching a group of Drift about human card games in the recreation room. The aliens struggled with holding the cards in their four-fingered hands at first, but soon developed their own elegant way of playing. You adapt too, Ben noticed, watching them. Just differently than we do. The Drift player, named Pine, arranged their cards carefully. We see patterns. Humans see possibilities. Both useful. In the observation deck, Maya found Reed staring out at the stars. The Drift captain had been quieter than usual today. Everything okay? She asked, joining them at the window. Reed was quiet for a moment before speaking. When Swarm attacked, thought all hope lost. Thought Drift would die alone in space. They turned to Maya, their purple eyes swirling with emotion. Never imagined finding new friends. New family. Maya understood. In just a few weeks, the two crews had grown close, their differences becoming strengths rather than barriers. We're stronger together, she said simply. Reed nodded. Humans teach us to hope again, to fight, not just survive. They pressed their hand against the cool window glass. Stars watch us all, no longer alone. As the Northern Light continued its journey toward Earth, carrying its mixed crew of humans and Drift, the ship felt different than it had before. What had started as a rescue mission had become something more, a bridge between two species, built on trust, curiosity, and mutual respect. The swarm was still out there, growing stronger and coming closer. But now, watching humans and Drift work together, learn from each other, and build something new, even the darkness of space seemed a little less empty. Sometimes, the greatest discoveries aren't new technologies or distant planets, but the connections we make along the way. The Northern Light pushed through space at maximum safe speed, its engines humming with a mix of human and Drift technology. They were 3 days into their journey to Earth when the first problem appeared on their sensors. Captain, Jack called from his station. We got unusual readings ahead. Some kind of energy disturbance. Tom and Reed both moved to the main display. The space ahead of them swirled with strange colors that shouldn't be there. The human sensors couldn't make sense of it, but Reed's purple eyes widened in recognition. Space tier, they said urgently. Dangerous. We'll pull ship apart. They quickly moved to the navigation console, their 4 fingers dancing across the controls. Must go around. But the tear was spreading, blocking their planned route to Earth. Going around it would add precious days to their journey, days they didn't have with the swarm approaching. Wait, Maya said, looking at the readings. The Drift can see something we can't, right? Their eyes pick up different energy patterns. Tom understood immediately. "Reed, can you see a safe path through?" Reed nodded slowly. "Yes, but very narrow. Human ships never try this. Too dangerous without seeing energy flows." "But we have both," Tom said. "Your eyes to see the path, our engines to power through it. We can do this together." The next hour was tense as they prepared for the crossing. Leaf and Jack worked to modify the shields, combining drift energy detection with human protection systems. Maya helped the rest of the crew prepare for the gravitational forces they would face. Reed stood at the navigation console, their eyes fixed on the swirling energies ahead. Tom took the pilot's position, his hands steady on the controls. "Ready?" Tom asked. Reed began calling out directions, describing the safe path they could see through the space tear. Tom followed their guidance, trusting their alien vision completely. The ship shuddered as they entered the disturbance. "Left, more left," Reed called. "Now straight. Fast through next part." The hull creaked under the strain. Warning lights flashed across every console as the ship pushed through forces it was never designed to handle. But the combined shields held. "Almost." Reed's voice was tense. "Now right. Hard right." Tom turned the ship sharply, and suddenly they were through. Behind them, the space tear collapsed in on itself, leaving empty space where it had been. The bridge was quiet for a moment before cheers broke out, human and drift voices mixing together in celebration. They had done something neither species would have attempted alone. But their triumph was short-lived. The long-range sensors picked up new contacts, moving fast in their direction. "Pirates," Ben reported from the security station. 3 ships. They must have been waiting near the tear for easy targets. These weren't the swarm, but they were still dangerous. The Northern Light carried vital information about the coming threat. They couldn't afford to be delayed or damaged by pirates. Reed touched Tom's shoulder. "We have idea." They called to Leaf in their own language, and the engineer quickly began working with the ship's systems. "What are you thinking?" Tom asked. "Pirates see damaged ship, easy target," Reed explained. "We show them something else." Leaf's modifications kicked in, and suddenly, the Northern Lights' energy signature changed. To the pirate sensors, it would appear as a heavily armed military vessel rather than a civilian ship. The pirate ships quickly changed course, disappearing into the distance rather than risk a fight with what seemed to be a powerful warship. "Clever," Jack said, grinning, using their own assumptions against them. Reed nodded. "Humans teach fighting. Drift teach hiding. Together, we find better way." As they continued their journey to Earth, the crew realized something important. Every challenge they faced made them stronger, forcing them to combine their different abilities in new ways. Human determination paired with drift insight. Human creativity matched with drift precision. The swarm was still coming, but they weren't the same people who had started this journey. They were becoming something new, not just humans and drift working together, but a true team, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Earth's orbital defense platform filled the Northern Lights view screen, its massive form gleaming in the sunlight. After weeks of travel, close calls, and growing friendship, they had finally arrived. But the hardest part was still to come. In the station's main conference room, Tom and Reed stood side by side, facing the Earth Defense Council. The room was tense. This was humanity's first official contact with an alien species, and the news they brought wasn't good. "So," Admiral Waters said, looking up from the data they had presented, "you're telling us we have less than 5 months before these swarm ships reach our outer colonies?" "Yes," Tom replied firmly. "But we also bring hope." He gestured to Reed and the other drift. "The drift's technology and knowledge, combined with our military strategy, give us a real chance." Reed stepped forward, their English now much improved after weeks of practice. "We have seen Swarm destroy many worlds, but never faced united defense. Never faced 2 species working as one. The council members watched as Reed displayed the tactical data they had gathered. The drift's detailed analysis of swarm behavior patterns, combined with human military simulations, painted a clear picture of both the threat and the possibility of defeating it. "Look at what we achieved on one ship," Maya added, showing medical data. "Drift healing techniques combined with human medicine. We've made breakthroughs in weeks that would have taken decades alone." Jack and Leaf stepped up next, demonstrating their hybrid technology. The small anti-gravity device they had perfected now worked better than either species' original version. "This is just the beginning," Jack said. "Imagine what we could do with real resources working together." The council took a brief recess to discuss. Tom and Reed waited together, watching Earth through the station's large windows. "Beautiful," Reed said softly, looking at the blue planet, "like the stories of our old world." "It's yours too now," Tom replied, "if you want it to be." The council returned with their decision. Admiral Waters stood, her face serious but hopeful. "The council has reviewed your evidence and recommendations," she announced. "We hereby authorize the formation of the Human Drift Defense Alliance, effective immediately." The room erupted in relieved smiles, human and drift alike. But the Admiral wasn't finished. "Captain Tom, your crew has proved that our species can work together brilliantly. The Northern Light will be the first of our new joint fleet. Captain Reed, your people's knowledge will be essential to upgrading our defenses." In the weeks that followed, the alliance grew stronger. The remaining drift survivors were joined by more of their people, found in deep space stasis pods that search and rescue missions discovered using combined human and drift scanning technology. Earth's shipyards began producing vessels with hybrid technology. Drift scientists worked alongside human engineers, creating defenses the swarm had never encountered. Human military tactics were enhanced by drift strategic analysis. 1 month before the swarm's expected arrival, Tom and Reed stood on the bridge of the upgraded Northern Light. The ship now carried the best of both worlds, human innovation and drift precision. Around them, a fleet of similar vessels prepared for the coming battle. "Did you ever think," Tom asked, "when we found your ship drifting in space, that it would lead to all this?" Reed's purple eyes swirled with emotion. "Found not just rescue," they said. "Found future. Found hope." The bridge crew, human and drift working side by side, monitored their stations with practiced efficiency. Through the view screen, they could see Earth, now protected by technology no one species could have created alone. "The swarm thinks they're hunting wounded prey," Tom said, looking at their combined fleet. "They don't realize they're about to meet something entirely new." Reed nodded, touching the Alliance symbol now displayed proudly on their uniform. "Not human, not drift, something better, together." As the fleet prepared for its greatest challenge, one truth became clear. Sometimes the darkest moments lead to the brightest futures. From a simple act of rescue, a powerful alliance had been born. The swarm was coming, but they would find not 2 weak species, but one strong union, ready to defend their shared home. The stars watched as human and drift ships moved in formation, their crews united in purpose. What had started with a wounded ship, abandoned in space, had become humanity's greatest achievement. Proof that compassion, trust, and cooperation could overcome any difference, any challenge, any threat. Together, they were ready.